Hi, this is Tracy from stepbysteppainting.net, and I have a cross painting that I'm going to teach to you today. So I did this two different ways to kind of demonstrate that this is a customizable painting and you can change the colors of this painting. I did one on a smaller 8x10 canvas, and then I did the other one on an 11-inch by 14-inch canvas paper, which is equivalent to the size of a stretched canvas. The demonstration is going to be with the blue cross with the fuchsia heart in the middle. So I drew the cross first on a 9-inch by 12-inch paper, and to do this I folded it in half this way, and then I folded it half down, but not all the way down, not halfway, just a little less than halfway, so that the creases form the center part of this cross. And this helped me with the drawing because I had difficulties drawing this cross. I wanted the design to have kind of diagonal lines, so I drew that, and the creases are right in the middle, so the creases are helping with my symmetry. It's not a perfect drawing. I think I wasn't going for a perfectly geometric cross. I wanted it kind of freestyle, so you may notice that it's not exactly symmetrical, but it still worked nicely with this design. I will provide a traceable if you are still nervous about trying to draw this cross. So that traceable is on my website if that's what you want to use. And that traceable can be enlarged for whatever size canvas you're doing this cross painting on. And of course, if you're drawing this, you could put it on any size paper and enlarge it to any size canvas you're using. Okay, I have graphite paper to transfer my drawing to, and I'm going to tilt this cross diagonally. If you're not feeling brave enough to do the diagonal thing, you can certainly do it perfectly vertical up and down, but I wanted this design to go this way. I was feeling a little adventurous when I did this. Not a perfect drawing, but this is going to help guide me with my painting. So for the colors, I am starting out with yellow Oxide. This is Liquitex Basics, and I'm going to use a 5/8 inch flat brush. Dip it in water and pat dry. Grab your yellow Oxide, and this background is going to be a starburst background. So think of it like a big asterisk, a big star, a big X. All of the stroke lines are going to be going to the center of the cross. And when you start out, it's going to feel kind of awkward. So I'm just putting these yellow Oxide lines in to kind of guide which direction I want my strokes to go. So I'm using mostly the tip of the brush, but I'm also turning it to use the full width of the brush. There's really no structure right now. I just want to get this first layer of color in. All around the side of this painting, I'm doing strokes, and the direction of the strokes are going to the middle part of the paper. So they're all going to be pointing to the middle part of the cross, if that makes sense. So do this all the way around the canvas. I look totally awkward painting here because I'm using canvas paper, and it's kind of tricky because I didn't tape my paper to the table, and I'm not using an easel. Usually when I'm using canvas paper, I'm using an easel, and it's there's like a board on my easel that I have the canvas paper taped to so it holds still. But for demonstrating, it gets kind of tricky here. So don't mind my awkward painting here on the sides as I lift it up and try to paint. But just do your best to try to make sure all these strokes go in the direction like a starburst. The strokes are going to the middle of the cross. An alternative, if you're feeling, okay, I don't like these diagonal strokes, it's not working for me, you can do all up and down strokes. So on the website, I show you my other example, that teal cross with the gray background. I did that one with all up and down strokes. So you can do that if you feel more comfortable. Or if you really want to make this simple, just paint the background one solid color. Make your strokes go all in the same direction and just keep it one solid color. But if you're still with me, you'll see that this is actually not too tricky to do. So I'm continuing on with the yellow oxide all the way around the canvas. Oh, I should also mention that I'm only going a little bit, so I'm not making these strokes go all the way to the center of the cross because my color is going to start out dark on the edges and it's going to gradually get lighter behind the cross. So the paint just on the outside of the cross will be white. The next color I will use is Unbleached Titanium, which is a lighter color than this yellow oxide. So that's why I'm only painting short strokes here instead of making them go longer. Leave that spot and blank, that white part that I'm not painting. Okay, so it's about 2 to 3 inches of yellow oxide, and now I have Unbleached Titanium White. This Unbleached Titanium White is pretty opaque, so it's going to paint over that yellow oxide. It's going to be kind of strong because it's opaque over it. And ideally, I want to mix the colors on the canvas so the yellow oxide isn't dry all the way, and as I'm painting, I'm allowing it to mix. You can grab more yellow oxide on your brush if you want it to blend better, if you want a smoother blend. But I wasn't really going for perfect blending here. Keep in mind that this is just the background, and any flaws that you do here are really, they're not going to be noticeable against the cross because there's a lot of designs on the cross that your eyes are going to lead to. So don't get too stressed about the background here. So what I'm doing is the titanium, the unbleached titanium is on the tip of my brush. I'm using a lot of the side of the tip to make kind of thinner strokes to make it look like that starburst design, and I'm dragging the paint. So I'm trying to drag this yellow oxide into the titanium, unbleached titanium. If you end up painting over part of the cross, that's fine. Try not to lose the actual shape, or if you do lose the shape because you got a little crazy and painted over it, you can always just transfer the drawing again. Or if you're not using these colors, if you're using darker colors for your background and you lose the cross shape, that's okay too, because you can transfer it again. So if you look up close, see how I'm using the side of the brush to drag that titanium, the unbleached titanium in there. It makes it look blended and that starburst sort of style that I'm attempting here. I did make that unbleached titanium go all the way to the cross. That was okay because I did go back and add titanium white in this next step. So if you're working on a larger canvas, this might look different. This might be obviously longer, bigger strokes, and you may not be going all the way to the cross at this point. You may not. You'll just have to adjust your proportions to the size that you're using. So larger strokes for larger canvas. Okay, now I am going to apply the titanium white. This is the brightest part. I'm using a lot of the side of the brush here to define more of that starburst shape. And I'm only doing it pretty much right next to the lines that I drew of the cross. I'm not going out too far. Well, right there it went out too far. Just blend it over the colors that you did in that starburst shape. The angle of the cross right here really helps with those lines. I just have to put them right into the corners. The edges right here, I use the full width of the brush to just drag my paint up just like this. You can do this starburst effect with just about any color combination. You can try it with rainbow. The outer edge can be red, and then you can go to orange, yellow, green through the rainbow, kind of like a tie-dye effect. You can pick just the warm colors, so red, orange, and yellow. You can do just the cool colors, purple, blue, maybe a different shade of blue in there. There's so many different combinations you can do with this starburst effect. This is only one example. Okay, this step is optional, but the gold makes it have a very nice effect. And I guess this is a good thing for this step, is that the gold is very translucent. At least the Liquitex gold paint is very translucent. So if I were to try to paint my background solid gold, I would need like 3 coats. But in this case, the translucency is working in our favor because it's not going to take over. It's not going to ruin my starburst here. Basically what I'm doing is using the side of the brush to make those starburst lines, just mostly on the outer edges, the darker yellow oxide, painting over that part. I'm not really making it paint over the white because I don't want to lose that glow, just on the edges where that yellow oxide is, and very, very lightly, very slightly over the white. And in a second, I'll kind of shake the paper for you so you can see the effect that it gives. A nice gold glistening effect. I wish that I did this on a stretched canvas. I'm kind of kicking myself for not, because it's a very pretty painting that I could be hanging. I love the stretched 3D canvases and how they look hanging on the wall. So I will probably do that again on a stretched canvas. So if you can see, the gold glistening looks so pretty with this starburst effect. I was excited about that. Okay, for painting the cross in, I chose 3 or 2 shades of blue, and then titanium white. Ultramarine blue, light blue violet, and titanium white. What I'm doing is using a 1/4-inch flat brush to kind of outline the cross with ultramarine blue. Another note is that if you lost the shape of the cross, you're going to need to transfer it in or draw it lightly with a pencil. So I'm using the edge of the brush to cut in this shape with only ultramarine blue. And the effect that I am going to create with this cross is going to start out dark on the edges, and it's going to get lighter towards the middle. So as you see, I have a lighter shade of blue, and the white, I will be using that after I apply all the dark areas. So just don't worry about that yet. Just concentrate on outlining, getting the shape of the cross. And I actually rounded the corners a bit on the drawing. I don't think the drawing itself had round corners, but I rounded it as I painted it in. Alright, so we have the cross outlined with just the ultramarine blue, and then I'm going to use that 1/4-inch brush to start painting in some of the areas along the edges. All I'm doing is dragging the paint from left to right here, so the strokes are going technically diagonally because my cross is diagonal, but we'll call it left to right. I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom, but this time my strokes are going to go up and down instead of left and right. Just on the bottom tip of the cross, because this is going to be my darkest area. And kind of drag it up just a bit. A lot of this is going to be painted over with that light blue violet color. And then on the top, drag the paint down, up and down strokes, because this part of the cross is also going to be very dark. You can see already the effect that's happening with this very dark blue against the white. It makes it look like it's standing out, like the cross is glowing. So that was it. That was an intentional color choice that I did. I think if you are customizing your colors, just take into account the color that's going to be next to the cross. Try going for a bright light color if you're doing a dark color cross, or the opposite if you're doing a lighter color cross to have a darker background. In the gray and teal version, the teal and gray, those are nice contrasting colors, so I intentionally did that because teal and gray go nice together. So when you're planning this color scheme out, try to think about that. Okay, I grabbed that light blue violet, and now I'm going to gradually get this color to be lighter as it goes towards the middle. Notice how I'm painting over that ultramarine blue, and that ultramarine blue is blending in very nicely with this light blue violet. I'm painting left and right strokes to go over that ultramarine blue. I'm dragging it into that light blue violet, and it's blending on the canvas. I do a lot of blending on the canvas. And when you're going up and down on this area, make sure you stay up and down, and then make sure you stay left and right on the two sides of the cross. Eventually your strokes are going to meet, and it's just going to be kind of both up and down, left and right. That's why we will paint over the heart in that area, so we don't have to worry too much about where your strokes going to go when you get to that point. Notice how I didn't even rinse off the brush for the light blue transition. Now I added white to the brush without rinsing it off. Not rinsing the brush helps blending. I'm doing the same thing, but I'm going to be kind of careful here because the white is going to take over if I do way too much white. And as you can see, it's already starting to take over, but I fix it. So the middle part is the brightest, and drag the paint kind of just like the background starburst. It's almost like there's a starburst on the cross itself with the strokes. And I didn't want it to be a perfect blend. I like the look of those lines on there that you see with the on the cross. It almost makes it look like it's blue wood, maybe like a vintage sort of look. I'm outlining the cross a little bit more with the ultramarine blue, and I actually watered down the paint just a bit to make it flow a little bit, defining this shape a little bit more. And then I added a little bit more blue down here to kind of make this side look more even. I'm just going over the edges to make sure that they're solid and dark. And let's see, I'll do a little bit more outlining up in this area. Okay, I think I'm done with the blue. Next, I'm going to switch to a round brush, and I believe I'm using a number 4 round brush, but you can use any kind of small, medium-sized round brush. Basically, I'm going to use titanium white to paint spirals on the blue part of the cross. So you'll see what I do in just a second here. This is actually a number 1 round brush. And let's start about right here and just do spirals right over the blue. You can wait for the blue to dry all the way, or you can let that white blend in a little bit. I'm not patient. I didn't wait for my blue to dry, and I kind of like the effect of that white mixing a little bit with the blue there. I think it looks nice. And just random spirals here and there, small, big. You can do without the spirals, but I actually think it makes the cross kind of pop a little bit with the white against the bright blue. For this next step, I'm going to use a number 4 round brush and titanium white to outline an area of the heart right in the center of the cross. If that blue underneath isn't dry all the way, it's fine. We're basically just blocking out a white area first so that I can apply a different color on top without that color look like it's showing blue through. So just gradually outline this heart here. I'm going to switch to a different brush to fill it in. I'm going to switch to a 1/4 inch flat brush just to get all this white filled in here. And then I'm not going to paint my color over it yet. I'm going to wait for that white to completely dry. Okay, while that white is drying, I'm going to use some Mars Black on my palette and a number 0 or number 1 round brush, just any small round brush or a liner brush. And I'm going to start painting some of these spirals on the outside of the cross. Actually, before I do the spirals, I'm going to do 3 little black dots on each of the outside corner area of the cross. So 3 little black dots. And you can use the back of your paintbrush too to do these dots. This is a very tiny number 0 round brush that I'm doing this with. Okay, next I'm going to do these longer spirals on the outside. So still using that zero round brush. I'm loading it with some more Mars Black, and I'm going to paint some. Let's start out small and then we can get longer here. So small spirals here and here, and maybe this one branches out a little bit more. Another small one right here. If you're confused about the direction of the spirals, think of it as they're sort of mirroring each other on each side. So they're symmetrical, but they're opposite, kind of like they're mirroring each other, if that makes sense. So I didn't have the spirals all go in the same way. Then, okay, so I'm deciding to do some bronze paint here. The bronze is a little darker than the gold. It does show up, but I ended up painting black over it in the end because they didn't show up that great. So if you want, you can experiment with bronze if you have bronze paint, or you can do all black spirals. You can change the color of the spirals. I recommend a dark color that's going to show up, or even white. White can show up against the darker yellow areas. It might not show up too well against the white part of the background, but it's worth a try. So I'm extending these spirals down a little bit with the bronze paint. Some of the spirals are branching out from each other, and see, this spiral is almost an exact mirror. Actually, not an exact mirror of the other one, but it's opposite. That's the direction that it's going. This bronze for me didn't flow very well, so I ended up having to go over these spiral strokes a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to take a break from the spirals and add Quinacridone Magenta onto my palettes. I'm going to paint in that heart. So that white is hopefully at this point nice and dry, or dry enough. And let's see, I'm looking for my 1/4 inch flat brush to paint that in. Get all that pigment off of the brush. Probably should switch out my water here, but that's okay. I'm just going to do a solid coat of the Quinacridone Magenta with that 1/4 inch flat brush. I left a little bit of white showing on the outside. I did that on purpose because I liked that nice white sort of outline look. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. Also, this is another area where you can customize your color. If you don't like the magenta look against the blue, you can easily change it to a different color, a color that's meaningful to you, or your favorite color, or something that you think is going to match your living room. So again, this is all highly customizable. If you were interested in the cross I showed you in the beginning with the teal color and the gray background, I used bright aqua green, I believe phthalo green, and light blue permanent for the colors, and I did the same effect as I did in this. I went from the dark to the light to the white in the middle. I explained that a little bit on my blog post if you read the little area that explains how I did that cross. So what I'm doing is I'm doing some more spirals. A little spiral happy with my art. Definitely, if you think you're done with the spirals, you don't have to do more. It's up to you. But I kind of liked this bronze, so I'm going to extend some of them a little bit more here. And then I think I'll add some more of these black 3 dots in the spiral areas. I think there's a lot of different things that you can do with the background. Before I did this painting, I did a little search on Pinterest, and there's a lot of beautiful designs. I think a lot of them are Etsy listings. So just having this kind of template for how to paint your cross, the groundwork of how to get it set up and everything, is, I hope, helpful to you. If this is a kind of painting that you've been wanting to do but don't really know how to get it started, I actually had to do a little bit of problem solving myself to figure out how to get this started. It's a simple, easy painting. I just couldn't decide whether to paint the background first or paint the cross first, but I think this process worked nicely. If you want to add a Bible verse or a quote, there's a couple spots you can do it. You can do small letters right along the outside edges of the canvas. You can do small letters along the blue edges of the cross. You can do away with the spirals, so no spirals, but instead do an area of lettering. If you're really good at lettering, do the Bible verse there. Or you can do it inside of the heart. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm using that very, very tiny brush to paint little white dots all the way around this heart. And again, another design element. And like I was saying earlier, if you feel creative, just let your creativity guide you. If you feel like, oh, hey, there should be stripes here, or let me try this out. So hoping that I give you a good groundwork for what I'm doing, but yet you can think of other ideas too. So okay, here's what I was saying. I'm using a paint pen, and I'm trying out this, it's not a Bible verse, but it's a quote from a hymn. I guess it's from a Bible verse, but it's from the hymn, How Great Thou Art. And I'm writing, then sings my soul inside of this heart. And this paint pen isn't really working with me. It's not my favorite paint pen, but for some reason I couldn't find my favorite paint pen, so I'm using this one. Bear with me, and I'm just showing you an example of what it would look like if you wrote a very short sort of verse inside of this heart. I ended up not liking it. I think it's because of this paint pen, and the handwriting wasn't that great, so I ended up painting over it. But that's an example of what you can do inside of the heart if you want to add a short little quote. I ended up just doing the white spirals on the heart instead. This is the last step that I'm going to do, so I am finished with this painting, and I hope you found this tutorial helpful. Thank you for watching.